There is no vault. The number in your checking account is not cash a bank is holding for you. It's a loan you made to them. They've already spent it. They pay you a fraction of a percent for the privilege, then move your capital into a system most people never look at. That system sets the price of your mortgage, the security of your job, and the value of every asset you own. While retail investors argue about stock charts and crypto, the largest pool of capital on Earth moves somewhere quieter. Global debt outstanding, about $145 trillion. Global stocks, about 127. U.S. Treasuries alone change hands at more than $1 trillion a day. If you don't know how that machine works, you're not neutral inside it. You're the raw material. Chapter 1. The Illusion of the Vault. Hand cash to a commercial bank and they don't preserve it, they deploy it. To earn a return, they buy assets considered risk-free. In modern finance, risk-free doesn't mean gold in a basement, it means sovereign debt, specifically U.S. Treasury bonds. A bond is a simple contract, a standardized IOU. When a government or a large corporation needs to spend more than it collects, it doesn't visit a lender, it auctions debt. Buy a treasury and you're lending to the state. The issuer makes two promises: a fixed rate of interest at regular intervals, called the coupon, and your principal returned on a set date, called the maturity. $10,000, 10 years, a 3% coupon, $300 a year, then your $10,000 back. Simple. The danger is in what happens to that contract before year 10. Ask 2023. Silicon Valley Bank took deposits and bought long-dated government and agency bonds while rates sat near zero. By the end of 2022, the unrealized loss on its held-to-maturity book was over $15 billion, more than the bank's entire equity. Depositors did the math. The bank was gone in 2 days. Here's the part almost nobody understands. Those bonds never defaulted. Every one of them would have paid in full at maturity. Chapter 2. The Law of the Seesaw. Most people assume a bond is static. Principal is guaranteed at maturity, so the value must hold steady the whole way. It doesn't. Once issued, a bond trades on a secondary market, around the clock across global sessions. Its price moves constantly. The driver is the global cost of borrowing, interest rates. One law governs all of it. When rates rise, bond prices fall. When rates fall, bond prices rise. Picture a seesaw. One end is the price of existing bonds. The other is the prevailing interest rate. They cannot move the same direction. Here's why that has to be true. You hold that 10-year bond paying 3%. A year in, inflation spikes. The central bank pushes the benchmark rate to 5. New bonds are issued at 5%. You need cash. You try to sell, and you hit a wall. Nobody rational pays $10,000 for 3% when 5% is available new. So you discount it. With 9 years left, to make a 3% coupon deliver 5% to a buyer, you have to sell your $10,000 contract for about $8,600. The buyer still collects $300 a year. But they bought at a discount, so their actual return, the yield, matches the market. $1,400, gone. Not to a default, to arithmetic. Run it backwards. If the central bank cuts to 1%, your 3% bond becomes scarce and valuable. Buyers bid it up to about $11,700 and its yield falls to meet the market. This is not a theory about bonds. It's the primary mechanism by which wealth moves from people who don't understand rates to people who do. Chapter 3. The Silent Portfolio Killer. For 40 years, one strategy was sold as the safe one, 60-40. 60% stocks for growth, 40% high-quality bonds as the buffer. The logic was comforting. Stocks fall in a panic. Central banks cut rates. Cutting rates lifts bond prices. Your bond sleeve absorbs the hit. A portfolio seatbelt. In 2022, the seatbelt failed. Inflation hit multi-decade highs and central banks raised rates at the fastest pace in 4 decades. The Bloomberg U.S. Aggregate, the index that defines safe bonds, lost 13%. Worst year on record. The S&P 500 lost 18%. A 60-40 portfolio lost about 16%. Then take out inflation. Consumer prices rose 6.5% that year. Measured in purchasing power, the safe portfolio lost roughly 21%. In 12 months. Held largely by people near retirement. The variable that ambushed them has a name: duration. Duration is not the time left until maturity. It's a measure of how violently a bond's price reacts to a change in rates. Longer bond, harder hit. A 1-point rise in rates takes about 17% off a 30-year bond. 2 points takes 31. 3 points takes 41. They believed they were holding cash equivalents. They were holding leveraged bets on interest rate stability. Chapter 4. The Transmission to Reality. None of this stays on a trading desk. It sets the price of your life. Housing first. A 30-year fixed mortgage is not priced off a bank's internal costs. It's priced off the yield of the 10-year U.S. Treasury. Sovereign bonds set the risk-free benchmark. If an investor can lend to the U.S. government at 4.5% guaranteed, they will not lend to a homebuyer at 4.5%. The homebuyer can lose a job, default, wreck the house. So lenders demand a premium. That premium is the spread. Right now, the 10-year sits near 4.7%. The average 30-year mortgage is about 6.7, 2 points of spread, moving in lockstep. Now the arithmetic. A $300,000 mortgage at 3% costs $1,265 a month. The identical loan at today's rate costs $1,934. Same house, same principal, 53% more. $8,000 a year, every year for 30 years, for nothing but the movement of a bond yield. That is what froze the housing market, not sentiment, a yield. The same mechanism runs the corporate world. When rates sat near zero, corporations issued trillions in cheap bonds, much of it short-dated. As that paper matures, they hit a wall. They can't simply repay principal. They have to issue new bonds to retire the old ones. That's refinancing. Roughly $2.5 trillion of U.S. corporate debt comes due between 2025 and 2029, and for 2 straight years, refinancing has made up more than 70% of all new issuance, the highest share since 2009. Refinancing today means swapping a 2% contract for a 6 or 7% one. Interest expense triples, so management pauses expansion, cuts research, and runs layoffs. The unemployment rate is not an independent metric. It's a lagging indicator of the bond market's refinancing cycle. Chapter 5. The Gravitational Pull of Capital. Stocks obey the same gravity through a mechanism called the equity risk premium. Capital hunts the highest return for the lowest risk. Stocks are volatile. Companies fail, tastes shift, earnings miss. So investors demand a meaningfully higher expected return to hold stocks instead of government debt. When treasuries yield 1%, the decision makes itself. Cash and bonds pay nothing, so capital floods into tech, real estate, venture. Valuations reach records. At 5%, the arithmetic inverts. A pension fund can lock in 5%, guaranteed, backed by a sovereign's power to tax. Its appetite for volatile equity collapses. It sells stocks. It buys bonds. That's the pull. As the risk-free yield rises, every speculative valuation has to fall to stay competitive. It's why a sharp spike in bond yields drags the stock market down with it almost every time. Chapter 6. The Sovereign Debt Paradox. Now the part that decides the next decade. How governments handle their own debt. A modern state does not balance its budget. It runs a permanent deficit, spending more on infrastructure, defense, and social programs than it collects. To bridge the gap, it issues bonds. Continuously. That builds a spiral. The larger the debt, the more sensitive the state becomes to its own interest rates. U.S. federal debt now stands near $40 trillion. In fiscal 2025, net interest on that debt crossed $1 trillion for the first time, about 14% of everything the federal government spends, more than the entire defense budget. The largest line item competing with national defense is the cost of money already spent. There are 2 ways to cover it: raise taxes, which slows growth, or issue more bonds to borrow the money to pay the interest on the bonds already sold. The second path has a name: debasement. It requires the central bank to act as buyer of last resort, purchasing government debt with newly created currency. The money supply expands, prices rise, inflation follows. That's the paradox of modern money. To avoid defaulting on its debt, a sovereign has to systematically erode the value of its own currency, which leaves one question: can you see it coming? Chapter 7. The Financial Smoke Alarm. You watch the yield curve. In a healthy economy, a 30-year bond pays meaningfully more than a 2-year. That's logical. Lending for 3 decades exposes you to inflation and uncertainty, so you charge for it. Upward slope. Normal curve. Occasionally it reverses. When investors get nervous about the near term, they rush into long-term bonds to lock in yield before a downturn forces the central bank to cut. That demand pushes long bond prices up, which pushes long yields down. Short rates stay pinned by tight policy. The result is an inverted curve. The 2-year pays more than the 10-year. Historically, that's a smoke alarm. Every sustained inversion since the 1970s preceded a recession, until the last one. The curve inverted in October 2022. It stayed inverted for 26 months, the longest stretch ever recorded. It uninverted in December 2024. No recession followed. Say that plainly, because the people selling you this indicator won't. Its most famous signal just failed. An inversion is a warning, not a trigger. The historical lead time runs anywhere from 10 to 22 months, which is another way of saying it cannot tell you when. What it does tell you is that large institutional capital is positioning for a slowdown. That's worth knowing. It is not a date on a calendar, and anyone who hands you one is guessing. This system isn't dangerous because it's complex. It's dangerous because it runs on rules that are the opposite of what we're taught about saving. We're told a bank account is a vault. A 30-year treasury is risk-free. The stock market rises on corporate performance. Underneath, all 3 are gears in the same machine. Your bank account is a loan to an institution that leverages it. In 2023, 3 of the 4 largest bank failures in American history happened doing exactly that. In a single year, your long-term bond is not risk-free. It's a leveraged bet on rate stability. And the stock market does not move on corporate health alone. It moves on sovereign yields. Once you see the structure, you stop reading prices in isolation. You start seeing capital for what it is, a restless, permanent search for yield in a world of depreciating money. You don't get to opt out. You participate every time you earn, save, or spend a dollar. The only choice is whether you stay the raw material this machine runs on, or become someone who knows which way the gears turn.